Hello and welcome to today, or should I say tonight's workshop. Today, I keep saying today, but tonight we're basically going to paint this scene here. And this is where I live. So this is Melbourne in the city, Flinders Station. I took this photograph one day. I think I was out for lunch. And I just really liked how the light was almost directly overhead. And yeah, really strong light. Nice sort of shadows there on the ground. I thought to myself, this is a perfect scene to go ahead and paint one day. So I actually was going through my reference photos, as you do, and I always forget where my reference photos are and which one to do. It's, selecting a photo is always the most trickiest thing I find, sometimes even trickier than the painting itself. But today I am going to show you a process that I basically use with all of my paintings. And I mean, there's two types, basically two parts of this process. The first part is essentially simplification of shapes. So when you look at a scene like this, it's very easy to just, become demotivated and think, how am I ever going to paint it? But really, if you think about it, for example, the dome, that's a semicircle. You've got a triangle underneath. You've got rectangular blocks. You can break things up into smaller components, draw those things, and funny enough, end up with a building that looks very similar to this. And it all starts from the bottom, putting in that horizon line, or basically where the buildings meet the ground. And I think when you get that line in right, a lot of what you do afterwards becomes a fair bit easier. Okay, so that's the first bit, the planning stage, drawing, the basic shapes, and also painting the basic shapes in later on. So kind of keeping that in mind the entire time that you're painting. But what you're doing as well is afterwards, you're following a three-step process. And this is what I use all the time. Paint the light colors first. So when you look at the scene, I basically look at the sunlight. So anything that's bright, that's got light in it. Paint all of that first in a thin wash, then go over everything else afterwards. Once it's dried, with a second wash, get in all the shadows. Sometimes I get the shadows in before. I get the shadows in if I want some really soft shadows, that don't appear too sharp on the ground, which I haven't quite decided whether I'm going to do that yet. I think I might have a combination of both. Then you do that in the first wash, but generally you'd wait until the second wash to get in a little bit of that sharper, darker sort of shadows while preserving the light behind. Okay, and the third step is just a few little finishing touches. So I'll go through all of these steps today and basically show you how to simplify and paint this scene in about an hour. So if you're watching along in the chats, I do see a bunch of you here. I know it's a bit of an awkward time for most of you guys over in the States. Leave a comment down below. Let me know whereabouts you're watching from. And yeah, what you up to today. It's nice, actually been a really nice few days here in Melbourne. We've had some good weather, which means, for me, I like to get out a little bit and take some photos, do a bit of sightseeing, some day trips as well. So what I'm putting in here is this little line. This is the horizon line, or basically, if you look at the buildings, where the buildings finish off. Okay, and if we look at the scene, it's about a quarter of the way through the page, maybe a little bit more than a quarter of the way. Let me think. 1, 2, yeah, it's probably about a third of the way, maybe about a third of the way up through the page. Okay, about a third of the way. That's where I've got it. That's where I've got it anyway. Okay, and we've got Jana. Hope I've pronounced your name correctly. Jana from Norway. Welcome today. Welcome to the workshop. Have you been here before? I don't remember your name, but you might. I don't know. You might have been here before. I'm just thinking. But anyhow, we've got in this little horizon line here. Okay, there's so much stuff in this scene, but the big thing we want to really work on is this building out the back, because this is Flinders Street Station. So it's this is a really old train station, but nicely kind of done up and refurbished. They keep it in good nick for the tourists. And up the front of the building, you can see here there's basically this, if you look at it, this little archway underneath. Okay, this is where people kind of enter into the station. All right, just near the front. Okay, it's a semicircle. Draw in a semicircle. Okay, always try to find those shapes. Look above that, there's a line here, and there's 4 rectangular sort of shapes above for these windows. Okay, I'm doing this pretty loosely. Okay, if I was wanting to make this more detailed, you'd probably just wait around a little bit and yeah, just take a bit more time with these bits and pieces. But for today, I'm really not going to spend too much time, you know, fiddling around with things. I think we can quite nicely get in a representation of what we see without spending all day doing it. So that's the front. You know, you've got a triangle, you've got a rectangle sort of base, there's a semicircle in there. And notice that the front of the building with the entry, that archway in the entry down there, it's right in the middle of the scene. So I chose this reference picture. I took this reference picture to make it quite obvious so that it's easier for you to kind of position. Okay, sometimes the center or the subject, which obviously is Flinders Station in this scene, might be a little bit over to the right, a little bit over to the left, and you have to estimate it. It's kind of tricky. So right in the middle like that. Okay, we've got a bit of room up the top, and that's where we're going to put in this, what should we call it, this dome. Okay, and you can see the base of the dome, there's like this 1, 2, 3, you know, can you see just kind of like 3 little sections like that. I'm going to put in the top of the dome here. I think I've gone too high up in the horizon line, but it doesn't matter. We can still get this in. We can still do this. Okay, and look at where the dome starts and finishes. So if you look at this triangular bit underneath, you notice the dome sort of finishes around, not right at the edge of the triangles, but kind of just slightly inwards like that. Okay, so notice I'm also drawing pretty lightly. This allows me to kind of tentatively put in some stray lines here and there and figure things out along the way. Okay, normally I really like to leave a bit more room on top, guys, but I've put that horizon line in probably a tiny bit too far up, and the photograph as well is a little bit longer. Okay, I think it's a 4x3 photograph or something like that. So yeah, compared to the bit of paper I'm using, I think it's a little bit taller. It doesn't matter. Yana says I'm new. Awesome. Never too late to join, but I've done about 90 of these workshops over the past few years, so you can check them out. Go to the previous ones if you have some time, or if you're interested later on, I'll send it to you. So we got the front of that building, the Flinders Station, and on, you know, you can see here on the right hand side as well, there's this other, you know, sort of top part, like that's these sort of, don't know what you'd call them, columns reaching up to the top there. They're just actually directly above the sides of the building, near to the triangles like that. Okay, what else do we have? Well, we've got this other part of the building that runs down the side like this. You know, we've got another bit that runs like this. Notice I'm holding the pencil right at the end as well. This is going to ensure that I keep things loose and I'm not overthinking it as well. The biggest mistake I've seen people make, and I used to make this all the time, is overthinking the drawing, overthinking what I'm painting, and getting too focused on the small details without remembering the bigger picture of what we're trying to achieve here. Okay, this building, it's all going to be reduced down to something quite simple later on. So the drawing is just to guide your brush work. You don't want to, you don't want to over detail with the pencil, because then it's just going to be a drawing. And drawing for watercolors is funny. It's almost a little bit different from drawing, you know, just general sketching, because we're using it as a bone structure, a bit of a plan, rather than thinking of it as something as a finished product. Okay, right hand side there, coming down like that. You know, there's a building behind. Where's this one? It's like another squarish shape like this, coming down. And on the right hand side, this is where you have this building that's in front. And this is actually some kind of pub there. Never been there myself, so I don't know what what it is, but I do see a lot of people kind of hanging out the front there sometimes. Okay, that's the front, and I put the little darker pencil for the front and the side, sorry. And then we've got some more little, look at these little archways here, which are shaped a little bit like, as you can see, kind of like semicircular up the top. Okay, bits running through, you know, look at that, just, it all just is basically a rectangle with other rectangles in there, which are the windows and stuff. Now over the sides, we've got some leaves, lots of these little leaves. I'm just going to scribble in some of those leaves. Okay, but at the moment, as you can see, we've got most of the dome, the buildings. Now this part on the left hand side is quite important. So this is this kind of like a little undercover area, and you can see here, it's kind of catching the light. It's catching the light. So draw that in one quick go like that. Okay. And let's go ahead and put in a little bit of the edge of this as well. Okay, it runs all the way down the back to the Prince's Bridge. Okay. If anyone's from Melbourne here, you know this place, this area, like the back of your hand. We have about, I think we've got about 10 people watching at the moment. If you're new here, or if you're watching along, figuring things out with together, let me know down in the chats. Let me know whereabouts you're from, and yeah, let's maybe something that you're working on in watercolors, or something that you want to get out of today's session. And don't be afraid as well to ask questions. I think, you know, for the big part. Oh, this is one thing I've really forgotten to do something here. I've been distracted, but there's actually another part of the building here to the left. Let me just get that in quickly. Yeah, there's like another part of the building there to the left. What am I doing? But yeah, to the left of the building, we have like this other section here. No wonder I was thinking, geez, that's kind of ending off a little bit earlier than I thought. Okay, so again, it's just like a little box shape on its side. Okay, I've done this subject a few times, and you get the hang of it when you've painted a subject at least twice. But even if you try something new, you know, and I've not actually painted this particular subject before. I mean, I've painted the Flinders Station before, but you get an idea of the nooks and crannies of the building, and you're able to do it faster. Okay, and because if you do that, you can actually focus a little bit more on practicing your watercolor techniques rather than actually figuring out how to paint this thing on the go. We've got Angie Carter saying, first time watching you live from Longreach in Queensland, been to Melbourne just once, love it. That's awesome, Angie. I've been to, I was in Brisbane a couple of months ago, and I find Queensland more exciting, to be honest, but but nice to see you here today. And when did you start getting into watercolors? Have you just started painting, or you new? Yeah, let me know. So yeah, so this is a good time usually for the rest of the world. Unfortunately, you know, when I try to stream at this time, there's not too many people from the States that can make it, because it's normally at a really awkward time for them. Okay, but it's a good time for me. It's a good time for me right now because I've got a bit of time and I actually feel like painting. So, and probably a lot of people, because it's a Friday, probably out and about doing something. So again, that's that top of that. I should make it a bit more higher. See, this is what I always looking at as well. Sort of looking at that other one on the right hand side, and you're trying to match them up a bit. Okay. And this might look like a pretty basic drawing, almost childlike. Okay. But you'll see afterwards, we'll turn it into something that looks a bit better. Okay, this is just kind of the bone structure of what I'm painting. In the back as well, you see there are some buildings, and these buildings are going to be sort of important because they're just going to, I guess, create a bit of a silhouette in this scene. Okay, and it's not to say you have to put them in exactly where they're in in the reference, you can actually shift them around a bit. Okay, so I'm just thinking to myself whether I want to increase that the height of this building a little bit. Might increase the height of that building just slightly. They're probably going to build another one there anyway, but it's just sometimes I do this in order to balance, just balance out the scene a bit more. Because I see on the middle of the set of this painting, you've got so much, yeah, you've got so much details and of the buildings, and everything's quite tall, and so it can look unbalanced from the sides. So yeah, sometimes I will just alter these little silhouette buildings there in the background. All right, so here comes the fun part. We're going to put in the people, figures, some of the cars. There is a tram here, and the front of the tram is, I mean, it's just a rectangle. If you can draw a rectangle and another rectangle for the windscreen, and a longer rectangular shape on the top, and then the whole thing is basically like a long rectangle, like that. And there we have it. We've got some type of shape that looks like a tram. Okay, it probably doesn't look like exactly like a tram or anything like it at all, but it does look like, yeah, some type of vehicle moving in. And I'm just looking very carefully at the shadows as well, and I've just noticed the shadows run a little bit to the left, which is going to be good, because I thought to myself, a shadow just directly underneath this is going to be difficult to apply. But here we go. Let's go in with this car here in the front, the windscreen. This red car. Okay, check out that windscreen. It's like a trapezoid shape, and this one, because it's so close to the front of the scene, we just really want to take a bit more time to pencil this one in. Okay, so just take a bit of time, and I'm trying to shift the car hopefully a little bit forward as well. So you can see it's a bit larger than in the reference photo, just so, I don't know, I just think I wanted to exaggerate a bit more, because we don't have any cars in the foreground. Not to say that I won't add them, because I think I might. Okay, but there's a couple of wheels, circles underneath, back of the car. I'm gonna make sure the wheels hit the ground on the, like, makes sense where the wheels hit the ground, like that. Okay, that underneath here. All right. Okay, that doesn't look half bad. Does look like a car. I probably want to shift that the front tire forward a little bit more like this. I just think it was looking a touch, a little bit unbalanced, but that's going to be okay. That's a car. Yeah, that's a car, and I'm going to get that in the shadow underneath that car as well, kind of coming over to the left hand side. Okay, that actually looks okay. And yeah, let me know how you guys are all going, whereabouts you're watching from. I do see a bunch of you being very quiet, but love to hear from you. Angie says, just started painting watercolors only about 4 months ago and really love it. That's awesome, Angie. And yeah, I was the same with watercolor, but for me it was kind of frustrating at the same time, because I could never control the watercolors. I could never, yeah, I just couldn't, everything would just run together and it would frustrate me, but sometimes it would work out and I'd be so happy. So just realize that it's not luck, that there is a process that you have to follow, and if you follow that process, pretty much everything that you paint can come up to a suitable standard, you know, that you'll be happy with afterwards. But yeah, it's not just all practice, it's about practicing the right things, you know, because if you're practicing the wrong thing, that's, I think, one of the biggest misconception, when people just think, I just need to practice more, I just haven't practiced enough. Well, it also depends on what you practice. Okay, because if you don't have a process or a plan of how you're going to approach this painting, you're just going to repeat the same mistakes of the past. I mean, eventually you'll figure it out. I'm sure eventually you will, but it will take a long time. So I'm just putting in a few cars behind. Look, the smaller ones there. You've got that tram there. You know, we've got people walking around here. There's like the footpath. I don't know. There's all this kind of stuff here, and it's really kind of quite overwhelming if you ask me. But what I can do, let's see if I can get in a bit of these perspective lines on the ground. I'm just hoping to maybe There we go. Maybe something like that. These little perspective lines on the ground. And how I do these, I essentially just, I pick a point all the way out in the back, and then I get all these lines, draw all these lines going towards that point. Okay? Like in one direction like that. You can use a ruler if you want. Okay? This looks a little better. Okay? This looks a bit more interesting. There's a traffic light here. Look at that. Just, I mean, it's right in the center of this painting to the left. But I actually think it's good to put this here because now again it balances the scene a little bit more, and I'm shifting it around a little bit, making it further up so that it, like I said, all this stuff on the right hand side, there's lots of stuff going up, but there's nothing here going up, so I just need to balance that one off a little bit. Sometimes, well, not sometimes, but a lot of times in the photograph, you have to alter things. You have to change it so that it actually looks the way you want. And in paintings especially, you know, because we're reducing detail, we're taking out all this detail. You know, if you take a photo, you can get away with it. You know, you can get away with just pointing a camera anywhere, and it, you know, as long as you've framed it okay, you've got a decent shot. But with watercolors and with painting, you're making an active effort to reduce some details, emphasize other details, and through that process, you have to make decisions. And I'm trying to walk you through my decision-making process. Okay, so that you know why I'm doing things. I think that's probably the most important thing that a lot of times you just don't hear when you go through when you do other tutorials. You know, people just make decisions and tell you to do this and that. But if you don't know why I'm making those particular decisions, then you're gonna always be reliant on me to tell you what to do. So here we have it, the dome. Just wanted to outline that dome a bit more. Okay, so what else do we have? We've got people walking in. I'm thinking to myself, because there's no figure, there are no people closer by, I am putting a person in here, walking into the scene, maybe like this. There's the back leg like that. Okay. And I'm putting a figure in closer because it's going to help create this depth, perception of depth. Okay. And notice I put the head around the same place of the horizon line. Same area in the horizon line. Always remember that, because if you want to imply a flat area, some flat ground, you need to do that. Okay. I don't want to do, look, there's so many kind of tiny little people walking around in the background, even smaller than these ones, but because I'm painting on quite a small sheet of paper, this is going to be really cumbersome for me to paint afterwards, so I'm not going to put in those figures, like those really small sort of figures. I'm just trying to put in some of these ones that are closer by. Okay, and I should probably explain what I'm doing with these figures as well. Let me just bring that horizon line a little bit further down. That's again where it is. That's the road here. But basically, we're putting the head of the figure in, which is just like a, I don't know, like a oval to rectangular shape. The body, which again can be rectangular sort of shaped, or even a triangle shape for someone with smaller shoulders, or a female figure perhaps. And, you know, here's a, you know, another person walking into the scene, and this one here in the front, you know, notice how I've got the head tilted to the left a little bit. That makes it appear that this person is kind of walking left or forwards left kind of thing. Yeah, so we don't have any cars or anything here on the right hand side. It doesn't matter. I was actually thinking to maybe put in, should we put in another one? Maybe I could just imply one here maybe at the traffic lights, just a car just waiting at the traffic lights. It's just a simple one. Sometimes you get trucks coming through as well, like that. Like a larger truck or something like that there, you know, just to, I don't know, just to make it look like there are some shadows running through here because we've got figures, and I think having some cars and stuff there in the background is going to help to create some contrast. What am I doing now? I'm putting in some more of these. Look at this. These are just windows. Okay, just a single line for that. Okay, guys, well, we're pretty much almost done with the drawing. It's just up to you what you want to do. I'm going a bit mad with all these figures, with all these people in the scene, but you don't have to do this. Okay, it's a bit much. I think I've gone a bit much, but I either put some cars here, some vehicles here, or I want to put a figure there. So yeah, one or the other. Let's put, this person can be carrying a bag or something like that. Sometimes you can, if you want to put a child in, sometimes you can put the child in like kind of next to the parent like that. And just a simple little figure of a child there. Maybe they're walking out on a day out to the shops or something like that. You know, a couple of legs, basic. Okay, look at the legs as well. Yeah, the legs are kind of like triangular shaped. Yeah, almost like little carrots. Yeah. And always remember, where's the shadows? Where's the light source coming from? It's coming from the right-hand side, so there's going to need to be some of these shadows running to the left of the scene. So, you know, just reminding myself to put in a couple, like a little few marks here to give myself an indication. But really, I mean, that's pretty much it. You can go ahead. There's even a traffic light here. Look, you can put in a pole. It's just a vertical thing there, and a traffic light here. It's just a black box, like a black box on a stick, basically. It's, you know, I'll probably forget about it. Okay, but that's it. You know, there's there's a branch of some like, what do you call it, trees and stuff coming in. So I'm gonna let's do this. Yeah, let's do this. Let's put that branch in. We've got that one in there as well. I do like how some of the branches kind of come in, some of the leaves come in, but I want to make them more kind of with like branchy like this. Okay, coming from the left-hand side of the scene. This can really help to frame the scene better and fill some of this void on the left-hand side of, you know, just not void, but basically like sky area that help balance it out a bit, because we've got a tree here. There's nothing here. It can sometimes look a bit funny, but that's it. Look, how long did that take to draw? Hopefully not too long. It's, geez, don't have the thing up here, but it's about 30 minutes. I've spent way too long drawing. Normally you don't have to take this long. I've been talking a bit. How you doing, Philip? Good to see you. I haven't seen you for ages on the channel. How have you been? Philip says, loving it. Hope everyone is doing well. Yeah, still plugging along, man. So and Pamela's here as well. Good to see you, Pamela. And Pamela's one of my students who's enrolled in the Watercolor Essentials program. Done really well with that, Pamela. Finished the whole thing. It's like nearly 1,000 videos. And we've got, look, I'm just checking if anyone here, if you guys need any help or anything like that, just let me know, because I'm going to start pretty much with the next step in just a moment. Nicole says it's 2 a.m. Jeez, yeah, it is a really funny time, but I don't want to wait until later. Yeah, for me, it's just going to be a little bit too late. I think better for me is mornings in Melbourne, which will be evenings for you guys. Rahana says from Malaysia now it's nearly 4:30 p.m. Awesome. Yeah, I've seen you before, Rahana. Thank you for coming along again. And Angie says struggling with patience, waiting for things to dry before doing more. Okay, great, everyone. So let's get cracking with the painting, and I'm using a mop brush. Okay, this is a watercolor mop brush. It's basically a brush that's got a nice belly. So it's got large belly, allows you to pick up tons of water, but you can still cut around shapes with the tip. Perfect for scenes like this. So I reckon what I'll do first is go into the buildings. Let's do the buildings first. And I'm picking up here to the left. Okay, maybe you see you can't really see it. Let me just move over to the left. Yeah, to the left here, I've got a bit of yellow ochre, and I am mixing in it's mostly just water. Okay, so 5 to 10% paint, and the rest of it water. why am I using so much water? Because this is that first step that I was telling you about. We've now done with simplifying all the shapes. Looks a bit messy, but you can see there's something going on here. But what we're doing here is we are painting all the light first. This is the easiest part of the whole painting, but you have to get it right. You can't be tempted to put in any really dark areas through here. Okay, so here is just a bit of this yellow ochre. Okay, and I'm going to try actually in this particular scene to use like a really subdued palette. Okay, something that's, yeah, just with less color, and I'm maybe try to stick to my 3 primaries as well. So we've got yellow ochre here, and just to show you as well, you don't need too many colors. All right, this whatchamacallit over here is really light. This rooftop, okay, that building. Okay, look at that. Okay, all I'm doing is just feathering that brush through to the back. Okay, just feathering it through. Remember, a lot of this stuff is pretty much going to be the same color in the background, all these yellowish kind of buildings. So we're just giving it a background coat. All right, nice little background coat like that. The entire building. I mean, even I think like you can probably mix a bit of gray into the top part here for the top of the tower. Okay, I'm also thinking to maybe make the rest of the make the sky later a touch darker, just to bring out the light, yeah, on this tower. But look, at the moment, as you can see, I'm just putting in some real basic colors. Okay, this is just a bit of gray I've mixed into the yellow, like that. Okay, but you can see that dome does have a little bit more presence than, say, the bottom part of the scene. Doesn't matter. Okay, we've got more of this yellow to the right-hand side. In fact, it kind of becomes more intense, where I'm going to start using a bit of quinacridone gold. Tiny bit of quinacridone gold, and this is just going to brighten up and give it a bit more saturation in this section. But I'm, you know, being careful as well not to overdo it. Kind of just all disappears off. It's difficult to see what's going on. Even this building to the right here, look at that. It's just yellow ochre. It's just a darker sort of yellow ochre here. Okay. All right, that's it. We've got that building into the right. Bringing that down into the ground a bit now. What else do we have here? Well, we have got some. Well, we've got some buildings in the background, but we've also got some of these trees and stuff as well. And I'm really thinking to myself, let's go ahead and get in the sky just in one big wash, yeah? I'm going to pick up some cerulean blue, bit of cerulean blue. It's a fine day in Melbourne. It's a nice sort of fine day, but you do find you get overcast days sometimes, which are just, you get part of the sky that's a little bit darker. Just testing out that cerulean. Okay, not bad, not bad. So I'm going to go around. I will do the left side first. I wanted to leave this dome to dry a little bit. Okay, and I'm using tons of water here. It's probably about, you know, again, about 20% paint still. Okay, there's buildings in the back. Don't worry about them. Just go over the top of those buildings. Okay, you know, those silhouette buildings that we were painting before? Just go over the back of those. Don't worry about them at all. Okay, even if you end up going over these traffic lights, you know, you're probably better off even doing that, because it gives it some, yeah, like a backing color, I guess. More of this cerulean blue. I'm always really careful with my blues as well, guys, because you can mix up green very easily, especially if you're playing around with some of these yellows that I have here. But when you're playing around with yellow ochre, generally speaking, it's less likely to create very obvious greens. Yeah, so that's why I tend to stick with yellow ochre at times. Okay, let's have a look over here. Let's bring this sky wash over to the right, and around the dome I will increase the concentration of paint so that, fingers crossed, we have a bit more contrast with the dome. This is one of the most difficult things to paint but I'm going around it like that and trying to leave a little bit of white, maybe. I'm just seeing if it even makes sense to leave some of that white, but I think I can do that. Yeah. And going over the left side like that. Okay. But the sky, basically, I'm using that sky to kind of cut around the dome a little bit. Okay. A little bit of that dome. So that's done. That dome is, well, for the first wash anyway, we're done. More cerulean blue, and let's go into the sky up to the top, right? And sometimes, look, I pick up a bit of ultramarine. Okay, check this out. I've just picked up a little bit of ultramarine to darken off the top of the scene a little bit more. And when you do this, I find it just gives the scene a bit more depth as well. Because normally, generally speaking, if you notice with reference photos, or if you just look up in the sky, the top of the scene is going to look a little bit darker, and that's because it's closer to you. Okay, so just, look, I'm just going through it, doing my thing. Oh, and I've forgotten that we have a tree on the right hand side, so we will also get in that indication of that tree, and we're just going to need a bit of green, a little bit of green for that. Nothing much, just a little bit of green. I've got this color called undersea green. It's just a really subdued dark green that has a nice granulating quality to it. And I like to mix in a little bit of this stuff here. This is quinacridone gold. I like to just mix in a little bit of that as well into the green. Okay, and maybe you have some white showing through. Why not? Just a little bit of white here and there. Okay, but I did say not to use any darks, but in this section, if you want these leaves to appear a little bit more diffused, you have to paint them in wet into wet, because that means that it doesn't, it spreads out a little bit. Okay, and I'm probably going to put in some sharper leaves afterwards anyway, but I want to put in these sort of diffused sort of leaves so that it just looks more softer in that area. Okay. Philip, just reading your message, Philip. Been here except for the holidays, just quiet. Hope you've been well. Yeah, I've been busy, but a lot of stuff going on. I'm just been trying to. I've got a second YouTube channel that I've been trying to build as well, because I have a kind of hobby in electronics and LEDs and stuff. So yeah, I've been working on that as well as my watercolor painting. I think I've confused some of my students, because they're like, "What are you doing?" They didn't know that I was into that sort of stuff. But yeah, just keeping myself busy and finding time to paint. I've been. It's probably why you've found my stuff again, because I just started doing some more streams during the week, and yeah, I find that just helps to keep me motivated, and people really seem to be liking them as well. So yeah, guys, I'm gonna just do something quickly here. I want to spray a bit of water here, and I'm mixing a bit of grey. Okay, a little bit of grey on the left side of my palette, and it's kind of like a warmer grey, I guess, but lots of water. And I'm just trying to get in, like, see the ground with this, it's like a greyish colour, but it's not a dark grey. So you want to use tons of water. In fact, I've used too little water for this mix. So as you can see, I'm just sort of trying to shift that water around so that it's not too out there. And I just like to blend it on a bit with the buildings as well, okay, because one thing I find interesting with beginners, they tend to paint everything in little segments. They'll paint the building, wait for that to dry, paint the thing underneath, but you actually, I find that one of the biggest strengths of watercolors that you can't achieve in any other medium really, and there's like fluid acrylics, I guess, but is this fluidity of the paint, this beautiful transitions that occur in between shapes, in between colors, and it's magical. It's magical, and it happens naturally if you let it. Okay, so we're pretty much almost done. Let me just have a look. We've got some of the figures. Let's put in some color on the figures. You know, again, really light colors because it is, you know, it is during the daytime. So this is a touch of blue there. You know, might have some teal for this figure here. Okay, like that. With the rest of the figures, it's up to you. I mean, you can leave some of their shirts white even. Okay, that figure there, look, another one there. I haven't got many figures in this one at all, funny enough. There's usually cars all piled up around this intersection. And okay, another last thing I want to do is the tree trunk to the left. I'm just picking up a bit of brown mixed in with titanium white to give myself this basic tree sort of color branch. Okay, and of course, you know what we've forgotten the car, this nice orangey red car in the front. I'm gonna pick up vibrant perylene red. Let's mix in some orange. And this might actually be almost too much, but let's just do it anyway. You got a splash of color, splash of interest in here, and this is really going to stick out like a sore thumb because everything else here is kind of dull looking. So we've got this really, look at that, just a really bright, vibrant car. Don't know how that will work out, but doesn't matter. Let's give it a go. Let's give it a go. Okay, you'll notice some of that paint's just starting to spread into the background and things like that. Again, don't stress at all. If it does that, you can either just leave it, or you can pick up like a little bit of paper towel like I have here, dab that off around the edge, and just continue on. Okay, the magical effects you can get if you let the color just do what it wants to do, absolutely amazing. And if it means giving up a little bit of control, I'm most happy to do that. These cars as well, you'll notice, and this, you know, if we look at that tram, there's a shadow to the left hand side, and that's because the light is coming from the right hand side. Yeah, so just a touch of that in some areas might be good. I don't know. It's actually not such a big deal because we can do that all later. Okay, let's give this a little dry now. I'm going to pick up a hairdryer, but, you know, yeah, leave some comments. Let me know how you're going, everyone. And remember to like the video as well, because that really helps me to get the video out to more people. And if you have a chance as well, you know, just share it around with your friends. Share the video with a friend that might be interested, or in a group that you're a watercolor group that you're interested in. It's, you know, I'm just one person running the show, and, you know, all this marketing, getting people to find my workshops is one of the biggest challenges sometimes. And if you can help out with that, I'd be very appreciative. It doesn't cost you a cent. So anyway, we're gonna get on with this. We're gonna dry this off. Give this a little dry, and I use a hairdryer. Some people say that's cheating. Should probably plug it in before I run these workshops. Alrighty, everyone. So we have got the first step out the way, and that's putting in all the light colors, you should have something really soft looking like this, where everything kind of blends together, but the general, you know, forms of things are there. Okay. And this bit now you can relax, because the first bit you're kind of under time constraints to make sure that everything doesn't blend together and create a mess. Second step, we're now going to put in all the shadows and see how we go. And Philip says there's no such thing as cheating in art. If someone says you cheated, hand in the paintbrush. And hang on, let me just rewind. Show you how to do it. Oh, okay. I thought you said something else there. Right. Yeah, look, I think hair dryers are great because it saves time. If the paper is already almost dried, okay, as long as you don't have pools of paint, if you've got pools of paint sticking around and you put the hair dryer to that, it's going to mess it up. It's just going to push that all color all over the place and ruin it. But yeah, the paint's sitting on the paper and it's absorbed through. Use the hair dryer. It doesn't make a difference. And there's some questions as well, but we've got Marie here on Facebook. Morning, Marie. And painting buildings scares me. I must try. Yeah, look, it's sometimes, you know, you get scared of approaching certain subjects, and that's why you end up sort of stagnating them. And I've done that exact same thing with animals. Like I just don't really paint animals because I've never had much interest in painting them, but people keep asking me to do it, and I tried one the other day, and there's, you know, they're a little bit tricky, I have to say. It's almost like painting, it depends how realistic you want to get them, but it's almost like painting a portrait at times. It can be probably a bit looser because animals are, you know, they don't have the, well, for me anyway, I don't think they have the variety of facial expressions and differences that humans have. You know, if you put an eye a millimeter to the left or right, no one's gonna really notice. You know, but if you do that with a portrait of a person, definitely notice. Angie says, what paints are you using? I'm using Daniel Smith paints. I'm using so many different brands of paints. I'm not even sure what I'm using half the time, but that paint there that I was using for the car, that's Perylene Red. So if you're wondering what that is, Perylene Red, and I've got Perylene Orange as well, or Pyrrole Orange. So yeah, it's just like a really nice non-granulating red, orange, both of them pretty much. I think they're from the same pigment family. Okay, so yeah, we've got how much do we? We've got about 15 people watching. Yeah, dude, let me know how you're going. If you're new here as well, we'd love to hear from you. And if you have any questions, because I'm really going to get cracking on this next part of the scene, and we're going to do it all in one go. We're really going to do this all in one go and just get it over with. Okay. And this is kind of like the most fun part for me, because, and it's also a little bit scary because you don't know exactly what is going to happen. You're kind of hoping for the best, but if you have this process that I'm telling you, like I'm showing you through, you still end up with a decent looking painting. Okay, so we're going to paint in all the shadows, and because the paper's dry, this paint is not going to move. If you tried to put in the shadows before, that's when you're going to get all this trouble with paint blending together, and you're going to stress yourself out. So I'm just going to mix my primary colors together. Okay, primaries, a bit of ultramarine blue, and I'm going to mix up some of that Perylene Red, and this is going to make a purplish color. Now I want to make a good amount of this stuff. Perylene Red, ultramarine blue, and the secret ingredient, bit of yellow ochre. This kind of turns it into a grayish color. Let me have a look here. 2 red, put in some more blue. Okay, and you got to get used to learning how to mix your paints, because guys, it is amazing if you can make your own shadow colors rather than using a premix neutral tint or something, because I always find that you can just get more interesting, varied looking shadows if you do it this way. Okay, so I'm kind of mixing up a purplish gray color. You know, it's more like definitely more of a grayish purple, I guess, All right, that's what I want, because I've got all this yellow here. Some of these shadows, if we have a bit of this purplish color, I reckon it's going to look pretty cool, and as a complementary color as well. Now I'm just having a look at the scene, and we've got to think to ourselves, well, the shadows are coming in from the right hand side, so we're going to get, of course, a bit of darkness here. That's too dark. I've gone way too dark there. It should be more like this. Okay, I would say it's about a mixture of 30% paint and the rest of it's just water. Okay, and we're being very mindful to leave in the light as well. Okay, so just go ahead, and as you can see here, I'm putting in a little bit of the details of these bits and pieces. There's a bit of this, the shadow maybe to the left hand side. I'm going to emphasize that a bit more of this part of the building. There is, what else do we have? This underside of the building here, there's a bit of darkness there. Let's go here like this. Okay, I'm doing this pretty quickly as well. Yeah, so I don't want to spend all day doing this. This part of the station as well. Look, just a little bit of shadow color to the left hand side of some of these bits and pieces. This dome, look at that. I'm going to put in a little bit of shadow to the left and also underneath the dome, like here. Okay, a bit of shadow underneath the dome. Let's have a look. There's a shadow here. There's a shadow kind of cutting across this, and in the center, it's pretty. In the center, it's pretty dark still. So let's just, oops, damn, stuff that one a bit, but it doesn't matter. Move that down like that. I just want to make a sharper sort of, see that sharper kind of looking shadow there. That's just indicating the light hitting the side of these columns. Okay, down. That's I darken a bit more near the base as well. Maybe a bit more blue. Yes, a bit more blue in there. That's why it's important when you're mixing up your own grays and stuff. I'd have another little puddle of darker color to the left, which is like kind of darker version of my gray that I put out to the left or right, so I can quickly go ahead and grab that if I need it. Okay, here we have this. Oh, what have I done here? This was actually meant to be the side again of another building, but yeah, it doesn't matter. I can still get this in okay. Yep, and that's. Notice how I'm doing this all in one big shape. Okay, this is important. Don't paint your shadows in bit by bit unless you really know what you're doing, because you're gonna end up with something that just looks a little bit too overworked. Okay. Look at that. So this right-hand side there. Look, there's more shadows here. I'm looking at the reference photo. This is what I'm doing on mine. I'm looking at the reference photo, and I'm just trying to see the light and dark areas. As difficult as that is, trying to really nut out where these light and dark areas are, where the shadows fall. And, as a general rule, the shadows, because we've got, of course, the light source coming from the right, the shadows are going to fall to the left side of these buildings. That makes it a lot more easier for you to do this, to paint this shadow shape in here. All right, so here we have this other part there. We're going to go down. There is let's have a look here underneath the building behind these cars. I'm using a little flat brush. I do have this other brush as well, which is just like a normal round brush. You can use that round brush as well, guys. Don't think that you have to use exactly the same materials and stuff as me, but yeah, it does help if you have some good quality paper, some good quality cotton paper. I mean, that just is a game changer. Don't If you're going to spend on anything, spend on that and a few primary colors. That's all you need. People tend to people tend to spend a lot on all these different colors, but then when it comes to paper, they'll be using something that's no good. And when you're using paper that's substandard, sometimes, you know, if I can get away with it because I'm a little bit more experienced, but it just takes a little bit longer to dry when you're using good quality paper. So as you can see here, I really have time to do this. I can really just, you know, paint this within my own, you know, look at that. But with other types of paper, if you're using cellulose paper, you won't have that at all. It will just dry very quickly, and you'll end up going over it and making a mess at times. So, yeah. Right. In fact, this area underneath this building is actually pretty dark. Let me add in some more neutral tint in there. I've kind of cheated a bit. Philip, I've kind of cheated a bit here. So, here we got some built, you know, this little doorway or whatever here, this gate. Look at that. I'm just putting in some darkness there because that area is kind of already dried, and so I can just, I don't know, just put in some windows or whatever, because I want this to kind of look a bit more looser. Now the top of this top of this thing is really bugging me, but there is you can see on the top of the dome, there's a little bit of, let me just increase the brightness a bit as well on camera. Yeah, the top of this, there's just a tiny bit of darkness underneath the dome there. If I could just quickly get something like that there, that'd be good. Okay, there's also some kind of darker thing there. I don't know what it is, but it's casting a shadow. Okay. Right. It's all just still one big shape. Okay. Did notice as well that there are some steps underneath, like here, and if I can just if I use this small, check out this little brush. It's just like a rigger brush. I just thought I'd put that in quickly. And also you notice that there are some little lines running by these pillars, so I can apply some of this quickly, just like that. Okay, probably a bit early for this, but the advantage of doing this earlier is you end up having those lines just melt in a little bit, and they just look more realistic. Okay, and part of one shape, as I keep kind of preaching, you know, one shape. There we go. This left side of that tower or whatever. There. Okay, it's just one big shadow shape, and let this sort of dry off a little bit. But the silhouette of these buildings in the background are going to be very important, because I'm going to show you what we'll do later. We're going to cut around, use that to cut around to get some light out of this scene. Right hand side. Now let's get this over with. Yeah, I think I've been spending a bit too much time just playing around with these shadows on the buildings. There is this shadow there. What else do we have? You know, on this building here, you've got a bit of shadow underneath that side. You know, you've got this building here. A lot of these buildings to the right, as you can see, there is just a ton of light on them. So there's not much you need to do. Just leave it. And this is the hardest thing to do, to just leave it and think to yourself, okay, I'm not going to paint it, because yeah, it's often what you leave out in watercolors that ends up making a scene look like it does. The background, let's get these buildings in the background. Let's get this sorted. Yeah, I've got a bit more ultramarine blue here. Okay, testing this out. Now all I want to do is just paint these buildings in the back in a very light color, but I still want it to be a little bit darker than the sky for me to create a silhouette in the background. Okay, And this is going to, hopefully, if we do this correctly, bring out the buildings more in the foreground, in the midground, sorry, here. Or should I say background? Here. So cut around, you know, look at that. Bit of cutting around like that. And you can already see, as you can already see, it's very subtle. But it looks like, yeah, a bit more defined, the buildings and the light on those buildings as well. Check that out. It kind of sticks out a bit more, if you ask me. Okay, there's some buildings here as well, and there's some buildings that I'd kind of just made a bit bigger or changed them around. So look at that. I'm just putting in those buildings. You know, you can add in more if you want, but I think that's real. Just a quick little one like that. Look at this one here to the left now. Same deal. One shape. All these buildings, we're going to put them in just one shape. Don't overthink it. I was actually overthinking the ones to the right. But here, or here, look at that. It's just a few brush strokes. If you do it in a few brush strokes, I mean, geez, just do it that way. Okay, all the buildings, one color. One kind of cooler color. And I'm using, again, just a bit of grayish color. Grayish, you know, blue, grayish color, whatever. Okay. That one there, you know, see, because I've overthought things, you can see it's just looks a little bit out of place, but yeah, doesn't matter. Now, all this stuff to the right-hand side, look at this. Now, we have some of this tree, and we want to put some color in that tree, and some darker color. So I'm just spraying some water on there to just re-wet that area again, because I don't want the green leaves or whatever to just be too harsh and stick out everywhere. So just a tiny bit of that. But then you can have some sharper ones mixed in. I just don't want the whole thing to be too sharp. Okay. I like this feeling of light coming through the trees as well. So I want to try preserve some of that by leaving in that previous wash. It's kind of what I was saying before with leaving out color. Leaving that previous wash to show through is going to improve the contrasts and make your scene look a lot more interesting than using just obliterating that previous wash. Otherwise, what's the point of putting in that previous wash if we're just going to get rid of it later? Yeah. Okay, good. I'm going to darken that tree a little bit so it does come forwards. How you doing, Kate? Good to see you. Kate Parbury in the comments. And the building here to the right, this building is darker, of course. I'm going to pick up that same kind of darker paint, but I've mixed in some neutral tint to darken off this a teeny bit more. Okay. It's kind of like a warm gray color, I guess. Yeah. And this is important because it's going to create a bit of a sharper contrast here between foreground, these foreground buildings and the buildings there in the background. So see how I'm trying to just do this quickly, but one go like that. And it's that, unfortunately, this tree, bits of the tree has kind of blended on downwards, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay. Now for the ground, this is kind of what I was trying to decide, you know, how am I going to get these shadows here on the ground? I reckon I'm just going to go ahead and do it. It's the same old color, the same old darker sort of color. And I'm going to just flick the brush around here on the ground. We'll get in some of these shapes of these shadows, okay, here, and they're kind of like sharper looking shadows from the trees. Okay. So what I'm doing here is a technique called scumbling, where I'm just moving the brush around in a random fashion, which is hopefully going to create some, yeah, just some interesting looking shadows, but not take up too much time. Okay. in the left hand side, what I'll do, I'll show you some sort of sharper shadows, sorry, softer shadows. So we can just pick up a bit of, so I've wet that paper and I've just dropped in a few of these brush strokes. In fact, I think that looks a lot better. I'm going to go ahead and do it, just spray that right hand side down a little bit. Probably a touch too late. But here that actually looks a little bit better. With the color spreading out a bit more natural, these shadows, I guess, like there. Okay, but of course I don't want all the shadows to appear like that. I want some of them, I want some of these shadows to be pretty sharp as well, especially on the figures. So you can see here, you know, a bit of darkness. I'm just putting in a bit of darkness for the legs and the legs of this figure as well. You know, let's join that on like this. Okay, so we've got a figure, that figure kind of walking to the left. This one here as well, bit of that shadow coming over to the left like this. Okay, maybe a touch more darkness in the legs there. Okay, the legs, I always like to paint the legs first and then do the rest of the figure afterwards. It just anchors the figures to the ground a bit more. You know, there's not too many figures. There's only a few that I've put in here, surprisingly, because I'm kind of worried because last time I really overdid it, put too many figures in there. And I really think to myself, how about I just get a whole shadow shape just running across, just doing this kind of thing. Yeah, let's do that. Just a little bit of, I'm experimenting a bit here, but another shadow coming in and maybe one, I'm just thinking whether we can get one, yeah, whether we want one coming down the middle or not. Oh, it's just decisions. You know, I think I'll just leave it. I think I'll just leave it because I like the light in the center. I get really excited sometimes and I just want to go in there and, but then I end up stuffing it up because there can be too much of a good thing. The wheels underneath the car, pretty dark. Okay, look at that. I'm just painting in the circles of them, and underneath as well, you notice that there is darkness. So here we have it. I'm just getting in this darkness underneath the car in one go, like that. You know, look, bit of that shadow running to the left hand side as well, and unfortunately some of it's kind of mixing into this front side of the scene. Doesn't matter. Another car there to the back end, you know, just simplifying this down, guys. This tram as well, you've got a bit of color underneath that tram, bit of darkness. You always need to have a touch of that underneath to imply that shadow running to the left. Okay, something here is just bugging me. Like, I want to, yeah, I'm gonna try to get some of this shadow to blend over with the foreground shadow like that. But in all likelihood, I'm probably gonna have to redo some of that shadow of that red car. It's just yeah, it doesn't look defined enough in my opinion. Oops, someone walking around the back there, another car here, another truck or something like that there. I'm just putting in some of those little shadows. Okay, what else do we have? We've got the figures, and of course, you know, for the most part, we don't really need to do anything. I'm just going to put in a tiny bit of grey underneath the head of the figures, like sometimes the head casts a shadow like that. Just blend some of that into the body, like that, so that the legs don't look too, like, sort of stick out too much. All right. Okay. This car as well. We've got some darks in the windscreen. Let me just try to do this quickly. Okay. Quick little bit of darkness there on the windscreen, and the grills, the front of the car there as well. Yeah, in this area, like I said before, it's just not dark enough here in the background, so you can always just go into it again and redo it. I don't recommend doing this too much, because you can ruin the beauty of that previous wash. But sometimes, like now especially, I'm finding that without it, it's going to look kind of yeah, that darkness underneath in the background is just going to look too weak unless I do it. Okay, so look at that, just there. Some of these windows already I've kind of painted in quickly. On the tram, you know, you've got these darker sections of the tram. Blend that in like that. And that left side of the tram now looks a little bit too light. So a bit of dark on the left. Here we go. That looks a bit better. But now we are missing some shadows and stuff out in the back. So let me, again, just put in a bit of color back there. Okay, good. Not bad. Another thing I like to do around this time is emphasize those kind of guiding lines on the ground. Okay, so this, look at that, just getting in quick indication of this, but you can see just these marks on the ground. Okay. Oops. Crap. No worries. Yeah, like this. This one's just a bit wonky, but doesn't matter. Like that. See? Starts to look a bit more like a three-dimensional kind of scene when you do this type of stuff. Okay, and you got all these tram tracks and things running around in Melbourne as well. You know, this can start to get a bit overboard if we are not careful. So I think something like that's probably best. Yeah, for a simplified scene like this, I won't go any further. All right, what else do we have? We've got these things on the buildings, like, well, not things, but basically windows. We need to put windows in for the buildings in the background. So again, I'm going to pick up a flat brush, and the flat brush, because it's already shaped like a window, it's going to make things a lot easier for me to, so I don't have to actually put in a squarish shape. So mixing up a bit of this neutral tint. Okay, and let's see, what do we have? What do we have? We've got a little bit like that. I'm just, again, if I can simplify this down, just, you know, as I can, like this, you can see on the side of this building, there's like these windows or whatever. There's another one there. Look at that, just a couple of brush strokes is all you need. I know it looks more complicated than this, and you can spend more time doing this if you want to, but I don't have the patience for it. And if I can just get in an impression of this scene and still imply what it is, and keep this looseness, I'd prefer that. Just want to sharpen this car up a little bit. It's tricky it's very tricky, this section, but we'll do it. We'll make do. It's kind of a focal point. This, yeah, it is a very strong focal point, really. Okay, good. What else do we have? At this stage, what we're doing is we are just kind of picking out tiny little details. Okay, tiny little details that and just dabbing the brush on every now and then. We're not trying to get in any sort of, oops, there is a flag actually at the top of this. Doesn't matter. I simplify it like that. I haven't left enough room up the top to do this. Another rookie mistake, but here we have it. Bit of this, little bit of this stuff here, like near the top of the, see these, what do you call it? Architectural details, I guess. There, when you have this end bit, everything's dried, and so you're just using that brush to go over the top and we are detailing tiny little details, but you want to go very, very light here, because you don't want to disturb that previous wash. So here I'm just, again, I'm going over, I'm grabbing this brush, I'm going over and putting in these, like, the pattern of these pillars. Yeah, we can just draw them in with the tiny rigger brush like this. Okay, with a little bit of paint. Not much paint on there, just a little bit there, just for me to get in a quick indication of what's happening. That's like a clock here. You know, it's just a circle. I'm going to put in that bit of the circle there. Okay. And I always encourage people to go out there and sketch, because essentially what you're doing here is you're drawing with the brush. How we all doing, everyone? Let me know. Yeah, let me know how you're going, because we are pretty much almost done with this one, apart from a few little finishing touches here and there. And I mean, this step, really, it just can take however long you want. You can sit here and spend all day doing it. Or you can just kind of do what I'm doing and get in a little indication of what's happening. Losing my brush. Something about this car sort of bugs me a bit still. Doesn't matter. Let's get some of this traffic light detail, this traffic light in red. Okay, and the darkness around it, this like traffic light. Let's do it all in one go. Okay, like this. Let it kind of mix in a bit with the black. Okay. It's really dark. This is just neutral tint I'm using, okay? Just it's for the traffic light. That's all it is. It's got to come in front of everything as well. Like that. We got one over here too that I had drawn in a bit earlier. I'm making it really dark to hopefully get it to stick out more, create some extra contrast. Again, there's all kinds of poles and stuff running around, but you know, you don't have to get them all in. Okay, you just put in a few if you're happy, or you don't even need to put them in at all. Okay. What else do we have? I mean, we are almost at the end point. Just some of this, you know, look here, this building here has some doors. I'm going to do this quickly like this. That window up the top there, you know, let's do a little quick indication at the side of that building like that. All those buildings in the back as well. I mean, you actually got a tiny bit of detail on some of them. Just a light, maybe like a light kind of wash in some areas, just to vary those buildings up a little bit. Maybe put a touch of darkness on the left-hand side of the building to indicate the light source to the right. Don't know, just something that I'm trying. Maybe very subtle like that. Yep, that looks okay. Can't really even tell. Good. So how are we all going? Let me know in the comments how you found today's workshop, and you have any questions as well. Leave them in the chats below, and I will get to them in just a moment. I mean, that really, as you can see, I'm just putting in a few extra details, and you know, I could have stopped a while back already, but yep. What else do we have? Probably a little bit of detail for the figures, the faces of the figures. I'm just going to pick up a bit of like pink color paint You can mix some brown and stuff in it as well. Usually with skin tones, I use a combination of perylene red, yellow ochre, and burnt umber, and also ultramarine blue for darker skin tones. So, you know, simplify things like that. It's not much at all. Bit of hair, a little bit of hair going on, maybe in some of the figures, top part of the hair like that. Okay, here. Simplify this down a touch. Yeah, this car, I'm not so happy with that car just on that angle like that. I think I could have improved it a bit more by just turning it a little bit to the side. It looks like it's doing a burnout around the corner or something like that. You know, it's just a bit too much. But look, you know, at this stage, you just deal with what's there on the paper and accept it. That's you know, unless it's really out of line, I don't bother. Just let's, you know, just get it done, really. All right, we're almost there, guys. I mean, there's actually I forgot to get this branch up the top here. I'm just gonna paint this in quickly. It's brown color here, there. Helps to maybe frame the scene a little bit more. You know, I'm painting a lot quicker than I usually do as well. Okay, so just in the interest of time and a bit of, look at this, some leaves, some little leaves, simple little leaves. You can probably spend more time. You can probably do these better than I'm doing them. Okay, scumbling the brush around and maybe some bit of darker paint in there as well to really bring out the branches, some parts of the branches. Okay, great. Let's give it a little dry and we'll use some gouache. Okay, just having a look at the chats. Angie, yeah, that's good that I've helped you to kind of loosen up your style a little bit. It's one of the most challenging things to do, really, in painting. But I think watercolors really lends to a more looser style. I think sometimes it's funny. I actually, when I overthink things, I just end up spending more time painting it. If I just got in and did it very, very quickly, I ends up being more accurate than me kind of laboring over it. So a tiny bit of white gouache, and this is just a finishing touch to just bring out some little highlights here and there. I don't want to use too much of it, just a little bit of it. It's all kind of dried up in the tube. You get some more. Okay, same brush, bit of water to just activate that gouache. Okay, here we are. And, you know, I'm just going to go ahead and let's put in a bit of light on top of that, the figure's head, back of the figure like that, here, and the back of the figure, again here, like that, the shoulder, You know, there's, I don't know what I've done there with that figure, but doesn't matter. I've kind of forgotten this figure here in the darkness. Sometimes you'll get a little bit of light kind of peeking through some of these sections as well. What else do we have? I mean, on top of this car, you can just start putting in a few little specks of, tiny little specks, as you can see, of light just coming off the top of that car. And funny enough, helps to kind of outline the car as well. Yeah, make it look a bit more apparent, detailed, I guess. That tram needs a bit more white as well on top like that. Look at that. That already looks a bit better. Looks a bit more realistic, like a tram. Okay, you're basically just putting in, you know, the final finishing touches of all this. You know, I can actually see up the top there. Can you see there's these little like pylons there? You can just, you know, put in some of that stuff, not to overdo it as well. You know, there's some, for example, this part, some like verticals and things running around the back end as well. So just imply some of that stuff. There's another pole here, you know. What else is there? There's another pole here, maybe. You know, I'm just trying to break this up a little bit, so we've got some interest, a little bit of sparkle here and there. Okay, on top of the dome, here on the edges, you know, bits and pieces just to bring out that sparkle. Okay, like I said, it's nothing special, just a little bit of gouache to bring this out. Okay. Maybe I can get something here on the ground, this like there. Yep. Just, I wanted to just emphasize some of these whatchamacallit, guiding lines on the page as well. Okay. Might not work out so well, but I think that's done okay. We're pretty much done. So yeah, let me know how you've gone for today, everyone. I actually had a lot of fun painting this, and if you have any like final questions, it's definitely a little bit looser than I usually will paint for some of this stuff, but it's turned out to be at least cohesive. It makes sense. All right, off comes the tape. And let's see how this looks overall. How did you guys go today? I just see there's about 15 people watching. And if you enjoyed today's session, or you know someone that might enjoy this session as well, please share it with a friend. Share it in a Facebook group that you're part of, a watercolor Facebook group. And it helps me a lot to get these videos out. But here it is. Here's the finished product. Not bad. I think there's a few things I would do, probably do a little bit differently next time. I think I'd spend a bit more time on the buildings, the windows and stuff like that. Maybe even these the tree here to the left. I kind of rushed that a bit, but overall it does look like a fairly loose representation of what we wanted to achieve. So not bad for about 1 hour as well. So I'm pretty much done for today, but guys, I have a Patreon. If you go have a look in the video description or in the chats, you'll find a link to my Patreon, and there's a whole bunch of different tiers there. There's a $2 tier if you enjoy my workshops and you want to get access to a tracing stencil of all of these scenes before the workshop and after the workshop, sign up for that $2 tier. That's more of a support tier if you yeah, if you enjoy the workshops and you want to keep them coming, give me a hand. Yeah, so, sign up for that one. I do have 2 other tiers as well where you get access to my premium courses, so go ahead and check that out. I also have a link to my 70 course program that you can purchase. That's a once-off purchase, $297, but you get so much value in there. You get 70 different courses, close to 1,000 videos, and that's really for people who are dead serious on really improving their watercolors, because I go through every topic imaginable in there. I even have a class on there just on painting values, so painting light and dark values. Okay, so I think that's about it for today. Thank you all for coming along, and I will catch you all next time.